I'll never forget the moment Patricia Henderson appeared on my doorstep. Her expression was contorted with indignant rage as she brandished a bundle of pictures right in front of me, as if she were delivering an official summons. The HOA leaders' shouts could likely be overheard several homes away while she ranted about destruction to properties and called for accountability over what she termed adolescent mischief plaguing our neighborhood. "Your boy is responsible for this," she proclaimed with unwavering conviction, thrusting a fuzzy image of graffiti-covered barriers at me. Various locals spotted him hanging around the recreation area last night. In my role as HOA head, I insist on prompt measures and complete compensation for the harm. I rested against the door jamb, observing her impeccably ironed jacket and how her HOA pin sparkled under the midday sunlight like a badge of authority in our residential enclave. After allowing her to vent for an additional half-minute regarding neighborhood rules and real estate worth, I eventually responded in the most composed tone I could manage. "It might be wise to review the surveillance recordings beforehand, Patricia." The flicker of doubt in her assurance for that brief instant nearly made the bother worthwhile. My 16-year-old boy, Jake, had consistently been the reserved sort, far more engrossed in populating notebooks with detailed illustrations than stirring up any sort of mischief. Whereas other youths his age spent weekends at gatherings, Jake was typically discovered at the dining table laboring on his newest creative endeavor or preparing for his advanced placement courses. That's why Patricia's claim struck especially deep. She wasn't merely accusing some arbitrary adolescent. She was assaulting my child's integrity. The defacement occurred during the prior weekend. An individual had scrawled profanities on multiple enclosures along Maple Grove Avenue and marked the neighborhood park's stone barrier with vulgar drawings. The destruction was significant enough that the HOA distributed an urgent bulletin on Sunday morning, including images and a vow of rapid retribution. By Monday evening, Patricia had evidently designated herself as arbiter, adjudicator, and enforcer. She burst into my workspace during a business meeting via video, insisting I discipline Jake right away. Her speech held that distinctive air of command that stems only from decades of unchallenged HOA dominance. A trio of residents observed, "A young person fitting your son's profile near the park on Saturday night," she declared, as though this constituted undeniable proof. "He had on a dark sweatshirt and was toting a knapsack. That's questionable conduct, Mr. Thompson." I noted that about half the youngsters in the area possessed dark sweatshirts and knapsacks, but Patricia had no use for reasoning. She'd already formed her opinion, and now she sought vengeance, or at a minimum substantial penalty and communal embarrassment. "The HOA committee will decide on penalties during Thursday's session," she stated with a smug grin. "I recommend the torpor your son for the repercussions of his deeds. We're considering at least a $5,000 penalty, along with required volunteer work. And naturally, this will be noted in his enduring HOA file." I wasn't even aware of enduring HOA files, but I held that observation back. The murmurs began nearly right away. Patricia possessed a talent for disseminating rumors quicker than a blaze in arid conditions. By Tuesday dawn, I noticed residents casting suspicious looks our way amid my early run. By Tuesday evening, Jake returned from classes, appearing downtrodden. "Mom questioned if I was involved," he murmured, dropping into a seat at the table. "Even she believes I'm at fault." That's when I realized I needed to push back. Patricia had overstepped by singling out my lacking proof, and I refused to allow her to bully a blameless youth merely to feed her ego trip. Wednesday's HOA dispatch was a triumph of veiled hostile suggestions. Without explicitly identifying Jake, Patricia succeeded in hinting at his culpability throughout every section. She discussed specific youthful inhabitants who believe they're exempt from regulations and guardians who foster harmful actions by denying reality. The dispatch concluded with a note that Thursday's urgent committee gathering would tackle the defacement Evantan takes suitable corrective steps. I devoted Wednesday night to examining our residence's monitoring videos. Jake had been precisely where he claimed on Saturday evening in his bedroom, tackling a school art assignment. The recordings displayed him coming inside at 4:30 p.m., and staying put until Sunday morning for his job at the nearby bookshop. But while gazing at the videos, a different idea occurred to me. Our home featured security cams, but the neighborhood park did too. The HOA had set them up a couple of years back following a string of nighttime intrusions at the swimming facility. If anyone marred the park barrier, those cams would have recorded it all. I placed a few calls on Thursday morning. The park upkeep manager, Robert, proved unexpectedly cooperative after I detailed the circumstances. As it happened, he'd already retrieved the videos for the HOA's reimbursement request, but was unaware of Patricia's campaign against my son. "Allow me 60 minutes, Robert mentioned. I'll forward you the pertinent segments." Upon the email's arrival, I scarcely could believe my eyes. The recording was exceptionally sharp, depicting three youths nearing the park barrier at twilight on Saturday night. They extracted aerosol cans from their sacks and got busy, chuckling and bantering while they spoiled the stone facade. The instigator of the bunch, plainly identifiable in the high-resolution video, was no one but Patricia Henderson's boy, Bradley. I viewed the clip 3 additional times to confirm there was no error. Bradley Henderson, together with 2 of his athletic companions, had dedicated almost 20 minutes to ruining the park. The timestamp indicated 7:43 p.m., precisely at the moment Patricia asserted that observers had spotted Jake nearby. I transferred the recording to a flash drive and geared up for battle. The HOA gathering that evening was packed to capacity. Patricia had masterfully stirred up indignation, and a good portion of the residents had arrived to observe what they presumed would be Jake's communal humiliation. Patricia positioned herself at the forefront of the committee table, surrounded by her 4 associate members, all sporting identical HOA badges, like a sort of residential syndicate. She initiated the session with evident delight, her gavel hitting the surface with excessive vigor. After hastening through the routine topics, she dove into what she obviously regarded as the highlight. "As everyone is aware, our lovely neighborhood suffered an assault last weekend through a pointless act of defacement," she commenced, her tone oozing with phony sympathy. "Following a thorough inquiry, we have pinpointed the probable offender." She displayed her collection of hazy images and a documented account from one of her allies, asserting to have noticed a young male in shadowy attire close to the recreation area. The proof was ridiculously flimsy, but the committee participants bobbed their heads in agreement as if Patricia were offering genetic proof. Relying on numerous eyewitness reports and conduct trends, we conclude that Jake Thompson bears responsibility for this ruin, Patricia proclaimed. "I propose that we levy a prompt penalty of $7,500, plus 200 hours of volunteer duty." A few committee members voiced their concurrence. One even began to endorse the proposal. That's the point where I rose to my feet. "Pardon me," I declared, with enough volume to slice through the mutterings. "I think I possess some proof that the committee ought to examine prior to reaching any conclusions." Patricia's complexion turned crimson. "Mr. Thompson, you'll get your opportunity to address us during the open forum segment. In fact, Patricia, I believe you'll wish to view this immediately." I proceeded to the head of the space and passed the flash drive to the committee clerk. "This contains monitoring video from the neighborhood park surveillance. It reveals precisely who marred the barrier." The space fell utterly quiet. Patricia's lips parted and shut, resembling a stranded fish, while the clerk inserted the drive into the conference room's computer. In moments, the video materialized on the display screen. The exclamations of surprise commenced right away. There stood Bradley Henderson, plain as daylight, applying aerosol obscenities to the park barrier. The camera perspective was ideal, capturing his features in complete clarity as he chuckled and exchanged palm slaps with his companions. The time indicator shone on the edge, eliminating any chance of arguing that video originated from another date. Patricia's expression shifted from scarlet to pale within a mere 3 seconds. She clutched the rim of the table while murmurs broke out across the space. On the display, Bradley discarded his depleted aerosol container into the shrubbery and proceeded to mark an additional portion of the barrier. This has to be an error," Patricia stuttered, but her speech had forfeited all its command. The committee participants were already pivoting against her. Inquiries come rapidly and intensely. How could she indict a guiltless youth when her own offspring was the wrongdoer? Was she aware of this for the session? Could this be a form of concealment? Patricia attempted to rescue the circumstances with progressively frantic justifications. Boys will be boys, she uttered feebly. It was merely group influence. Bradley's a fine young man who committed a single error, but the harm was inflicted. The identical residents who'd been prepared to condemn Jake were now demanding Patricia's departure. The committee participant who'd nearly supported her proposal against Jake now suggested absolving his name entirely and delivering an official regret. The decision was unanimous, but they hadn't concluded. Another committee member, obviously detecting vulnerability, suggested issuing an official HOA infraction to the Henderson household for the defacement. The penalty would amount to $10,000, exceeding what Patricia had attempted to impose on Jake, plus obligatory repair of every impaired asset. Patricia sought to protest, but she'd forfeited all trustworthiness. The suggestion succeeded 4-1, with Patricia submitting the sole opposing ballot. The ultimate strike occurred when the committee's finance officer rose. Considering the grave error in discernment shown this evening, I suggest conducting a ballot of no trust in our present HOA leader. The ballot was quick and harsh. Patricia Henderson, who'd governed the HOA with rigid control for 6 years, was ousted from her role by unanimous resolution. She remained seated in disbelief as the committee promptly selected a fresh leader and started debating extra penalties against Bradley and his associates. Moreover, the fresh leader declared, the Henderson household will bear accountability for every restoration expense, which our upkeep manager approximates at roughly $3,000. This comes on top of the $10,000 penalty. Neglecting to settle within 30 days will lead to a lien being imposed on the estate. Patricia's fingers trembled as she collected her documents. $13,000 in penalties. Her role vanished, her standing ruined. She rose to depart, but the fresh leader wasn't done. Oh, and Patricia, you'll have to surrender your HOA keys and entry passes by midday tomorrow. Your leadership benefits have been withdrawn. Effective at once. The expression on Patricia's face as she faltered out of the conference space was one of total ruin. The monarch of the HOA had been unseated by her own arrogance, toppled by the exact monitoring setup she advocated establishing.